Well, thank you all again for making yourselves available. Especially today, it's a holiday, Easter Sunday. In a way, there's nowhere for anyone to go since most churches are closed. We're all by ourselves, possibly in connection with someone else, but even so, we're all by ourselves. And I think the gift of this particular Easter, and it will be remembered, is that we are all by ourselves, which is a great teaching, because there's an ultimate truth to that, of course. Even though those of us who are paired up and have families around us feel some kind of connectivity, many of us feel deeply, deeply alone, even in connection. And all of us are being reminded daily by the news and newspapers, maybe just by being alive, that this is temporary, that it is given to us, life is given to us, and it is taken away. Very few of us can really understand what the life journey is, why it's happening, how it is that it's taking place. The only thing we know, if we know anything, is that it comes to an end. And for centuries, that end was always debated. What is that end? And then the Christ teaching came in, the crucifixion and the resurrection, and that gave us a doorway into faith and hope, that the passageway is not into nothingness as such, but that it opens into something else. We can call it greater, we can call it lesser, we can call it other, we can call it more of the same, we can call it dreamscape, we can call it awakening to truth. So many ways to look at it. But the promise of transition and transformation into something other, hopefully perhaps greater, is a sustaining force in all of our lives. But what this unexpected moment of coronavirus brings us is kind of twofold, or maybe more so. One is we're all in it together. And two, interesting idea, you've made your bed, now lie in it. That's a little bit problematic. The fact that we've made our bed feels like it has a certain finality to it. This is your life. This is where you've gotten for yourself. This is where you've arrived at. This is a moment of reflection and focus. This is where you are. This is what you have. This is who you are. Be that. Which is fine if you like where you are, if you like who you are, if you like your sheets and the pillows and the bed and the comfort and the room and the windows in the room, and if you sleep well in it, and if you are finding a state of wholeness and completion, making your bed and lying in it is a wonderful thing. But most people that I know feel that the bed still has a long way to go before it's finished. That somewhere down the road, you will have made your bed. You will arrive at the place where you're supposed to get to. You will finally have what it is you've been working for your whole life, which is wonderful. Good. At some point down the road, you will wake up to the same thing you're waking up to today, which is you've made your bed, now lie in it. But you're going to say, but now it's too soon for me to say that. How can, this is not the bed I'm supposed to lie in. I'm supposed to lie in a bed 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. But in fact, sorry guys, the wake up of this moment, the wake up call of coronavirus is you're lying in the bed you made. Do you like it or not like it? Did you forget to wash the sheets? Did you forget to buy the bed you were planning to buy? Are the pillows wearing away? Is it perfectly cozy? Is everyone around you exactly as you had hoped that they would be? These are really big questions. And the truth of the matter is, you make your bed, you lie in it, is not a future projection. It is of this very moment. You are exactly where you are in life, in the world, and in your spiritual being. You have either begun the journey or completed the journey or somewhere on the journey of being in a place where when the time comes to lay your head down in your own arms, if you will, to feel that you are whole and arrived at a place of deep comfort. The idea of putting that off for the end of your life is problematic because you are going to be sleeping in this bed every night. And if the world stops, as it has this month, to show you the bed you're lying in, you will discover in most cases that it's lumpy. It doesn't feel right. It's not what you wanted. That you meant to buy sheets last week, but you forgot. And you feel that your bed is somehow not the bed you would like to lay down in for the very last time in your life. Some people are in the bed they will leave this world from. And one of the extraordinary lessons of the coronavirus is it could be you at any moment in time. This may be the bed you arrived at, for better or for worse. 6 students in our New York class have had the coronavirus. 6. That's a lot of people to know. They are all, I will tell you, happily on the other side of it, and they have all got struggles to report. But it's not like the coronavirus is out there, maybe with people we kind of know or heard about. In my life, in Blanche's life, we know people who are experiencing it, and the warning signals flash at us. I have looked at my life and at the bed I have made over the course of a lifetime. And I crawl into that bed with enormous gratitude. The reason I crawl into that bed with gratitude is that Rudy said to me 50 years ago, this work is your life's work. He did not say that the most important part of it would be at the end, that the real proof in the pudding would be at the end, but that's really what I'm discovering. What we're working for is toward this fulfillment, this sense of, I like my bed. I am at home and at comfort and at peace in my bed. The nice idea of that is you get a whole life to get there. You get, however many years. I had 50 years of practice of Rudy's work or more. And it has prepared my space. You do not imagine that somehow the bed you're going to be lying in isn't going to be down the road. But the truth is, and coronavirus says this to us, the bed you're lying in is the one you got right now. How do you find your way into going? Dayenu is the Jewish word. If it wasn't for more than this is enough. How do you arrive at this place of this is enough? the comfort's there. The pillow feels right, the sheets are right, the blanket's right. You really do feel I have made my bed and I'm lying in it. I say this to you because if you haven't, if this wake-up call is a call to, I'm not there yet, I'm not done, I have more work to do, that's an amazing gift. And the gift is, do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow or next month, because the great awareness that's descending on the culture, on the world, is stop, sit, stay, and do this work. Find the thing that will let you begin to feel, I'm okay with my life. I'm okay with what I've lived, what I've done, who I am. And if you're not, there are two choices. One is to do things that will make you feel better, which can be very complicated. And the other is to open your heart to the truth of who you are at this very second. That work, which is a breathing exercise that we've all learned, that goes into your heart and your navel and opens you and all these sort of chakra centers. If you go in and do that work, what happens is there is a kind of comfort that makes the bed really, really welcoming. So that no matter where you are at any given moment in your life, if you can't get the world to line up to your comfort zone, you can get your inner being to be comfortable exactly where it's at. And that, for me, makes sense. There's a real issue at work of what happens when you don't like the reality around you. What happens when you wake up to reality you don't want? Coronavirus may be a version of that. What happens when the job you wanted goes away? What happens when your paycheck is gone? What happens when you don't know where the next check is coming from? You know, that's pretty terrifying. When you don't like reality as it is, again, you've got to act on that. There are things you have to do often in the world, and it's a directive that comes from deep inside you. Find work, find money, find help, beg, ask, support your family. Bow down to whoever it is that might be able to be of help to you and ask for help. Rudy always said asking for help is at the core of the human experience. If you need help, ask. And if you get what you're asking for, say thank you and express gratitude. If you don't get what you want in life, and life begins to completely betray you, it will lead you to the moment of truth, meaning there is no help, there's no doorway out, there is no corrective, there's no food, there's no money, there's no nothing, and you don't know what to do. If you get to that place and you are in total suffering and you do not like the reality that you're in, I can tell you there are a lot of people who would empathize with you. I would definitely be one of them. But the journey doesn't start or end with that total suffering. It is the doorway to truth. When you have nowhere else to look, where reality is not going to fulfill your needs on any level, where everything has fallen away, where death is at your door, which is, I guess, in a way, the ultimate reality, where death is at your door and everything has fallen away, that is a moment that all of us will face, even if we have a life of goodness and a life of comfort around us. We will all arrive at this place where everything is taken away and nothing and no one can help you. This is going to arrive, even if it's in a split second of something. It will arrive. You will stare it in the face. If you're suddenly on fire in your car or drowning in a lake or chopping off your head or whatever it is, there's going to be a moment you really do not like. And there's no way to go okay to this. For example, being crucified on a cross. There is nothing about that moment that you are going to like. Guaranteed. And you are going to look for help in all directions. And it will probably not come, because Jesus' suffering on the cross included a betrayal in his mind of, why have you forsaken me? Why is there no hope at this moment? That is the cry of probably every human being at some fundamental moment. And if you want to be reminded that that moment is coming, coronavirus is an interesting moment to look at that. Easter Sunday is a really interesting moment to look at that. The collision of these two events, very powerful. You are on the cross, you are suffering, life is betraying you on every level. What do you do? What do you do? I will tell you, the thing Christ did, and the thing we may aspire to as human beings, is to look away from our own pain and suffering for one split second and see its universality. See that it is everywhere around us, that we are not the only one who suffers. Suffering is a universal truth, and that suffering leads to something that Christ found, which was kindness, compassion, and forgiveness for those around him who were causing his suffering. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That transition takes a muscle system that requires a lifetime of practice. Rudy has given us a version of that practice. Go in your heart and ask for help to surrender to what is, to surrender to the pain, to surrender to the fear, to surrender to the stress, the agony of your own being, and reach beyond that, because that struggle, that pain, that horror that you deal with is basically a reactive entity. There is someone there biologically still reacting, and that biological you is very hard to let go of, and yet it's going to be taken away. And what happens in the last moments of it being taken away is you realize you are not that. You are not that biological entity. That is a construct that has given you a robe to wear, if you will, to enter into the world of wonder and magic and beauty and love and suffering and darkness and tragedy. We have all been dressed in these robes called a body, given this life, and then they take it all away. And when we have it finally ripped apart, what's left is the very thing that was always there, this glory of life. And then you find this voice that goes, forgive them. They know not what they do. And you ascend. You ascend into the true, protective, loving embrace of that which gave you life in the first place. This is the promise of Easter. I think it's the promise of the work that we do. I can only tell you that my own experience, which I share with you, and it's been growing dramatically over the last year, is the present tense of this phenomenal inner presence. It is the most welcoming, loving, gratitude-producing, loving-inducing reality I had ever imagined. It is also very instructive. It shows me every crack and crevice of my ego-minded personality, and it scrubs it away. Painful, but little pieces, it helps. And it's left me in a very strange state, because I had a phone call with my son Ari this last week, and he said, how are you? And I said, basically, I've never been better. This is the happiest I've ever been. I am in a still pointed life. I have a quietude at home. I have a loving wife. I have a beautiful home. I have a wonderful area to walk. I go on long walks. The sun comes out almost the minute I go out walking. I don't know what that's about, but it's been an amazing time for me in my life. And I said, if I get the virus and I die happy. I think I said this last week as well. But I said it to Ari, and he got really upset. And he said, how can you talk like that in a time of such suffering? And expressed his own suffering and the people around him who are suffering. And I collapsed inside into this sense of deep, deep embarrassment. I just felt, yikes. This spiritual journey that we are all on lifts you up, but it does not remove you from the world of suffering. And I felt I had been so tone deaf to my own son and the world he was living in, and then the world many people are living in, so that even this talk today is complicated, because I am aware that there are so many people in their own distinctively real beds that they're lying in. And a lot of them are spiky and straw-baled and uncomfortable, and they wish they weren't in them, and some are hard as rock, and some are cold, and some are in rooms that have air blowing through them. And I know that there is enormous suffering out there, and you may be experiencing it yourselves. And I also know that there is, within the confines of all of that, a space of refuge inside. But just because I have spent 50 years working to be in that space, in no way allows me the voice of saying, oh, look what I've done and look what you haven't done, because that is not the teaching. That is not the teaching. The teaching is there is a doorway to compassion and love and kindness inside us. If you find that doorway, do not walk around as an advertisement for I've got it and you don't, because that is exactly the wrong statement. The statement is, I care about you and I love you. I wish I could hug you. If people ask about the journey into stillness and oneness, be open to talking about it. But don't walk around bragging to the world that you know what they don't know, because that is not what this is for. This is for one thing: forgive them, for they know not what they do. The forgiveness part of spiritual journey, the service part, the kindness, the compassion, the reaching out, the not being totally self-centered on your world. My son Ari taught me that this week. And I really felt such shame in advertising something like my happiness. Not that you can't have it, and not that you can't share it, but you can't make it the thing that defines you in separation from anybody else. We are all in this together. Our job is radiate whatever joy and love you can feel, but do not make it an identity or a statement or a position that elevates you on any level. This is not about elevation. This is about sharing. It's about connection to everyone and what everyone is experiencing. And every one of us is in a different place. Every one of us is in a really different place, maybe moment to moment even different. So my advice, based on all that I'm saying, is help people smooth the sheets on their bed. Offer them an ear, a witness, an empathetic voice, an ear to hear rather than having to teach, an understanding of everybody's drama and everybody's fear and everybody's confusion. Listen and be present. But the best thing you can do is bring to the table a vast openness that can really, really share this simple truth that we are all in it together, that in a sense, this is a communal bed. We have all made this bed and we're all lying in it. Some people are sleeping a little bit better than others. Some people have maybe a little less lumpy mattress or part of the mattress than others, but we're all in this together. And the real job now, assuming you want a job and assuming this talk is about anything, is help one another in any way you can. Don't thrust yourself upon people, be available to them. It's interesting that so much of what's wanted right now is just stay home, stay out of the mainstream traffic. That's not hard. It's hard for us that are home, but just imagine, we're in homes most of the times that are, very sweet. Not everybody, but we are. But some of the greatest teachers came from being in jail, in jail cells, where they were isolated from everybody except for an hour a day. And you can just imagine how that compares to the world that we're in. That there's always worse and there's always better. Don't judge. Don't try to place yourself in a spectrum of more or less. Be who you are. Be what you can be for other people. And mostly, do this work. Open your heart. Feel the refuge in you that you can then begin to help others find, because you will share it and be a living example of it day to day in the world. I don't think I have more to say about this. I think the message is pretty clear. There's work for us to do. Some of it has to be done from inside the confines of your home. It can involve going on the computer and reaching out to people. I've had people I haven't heard from in years suddenly say hi, reach out. I found myself unbelievably touched by that. I've had phone calls. I've had FaceTime moments that are so beautiful. We can all do that. Reach out to others. You are struggling on your own cross. Reach out to those and forgive them. Give them your love. And that is the ennobling, liberating quality of a deeply evolved spiritual life and of a real human life. Be available to those who need you. So, thank you guys for showing up here. Rudy used to talk about being a cow and what happens to a cow that isn't milked. It just dries up. You guys are the opportunity to let the milk flow. And for that, I am totally grateful. I really love you all. I really love every one of you that showed up, and even those who were unable to get here. And we'll keep this going. I'll do San Rafael in LA once a month, and then I'll do the New York classes twice a month. And if there's any way to interweave them, that would be great, but I think I just get too many people on the screen and it gets unwieldy. But anyway, if all goes well, I'll see you guys in a month. And thank you for showing up and for coming. Hey, Dean. Hi, sweetheart. Oh. Any questions today from anybody? You can put your mute buttons back off. You can turn them off.
Thank you, Bruce, for setting this up for us.
You're welcome, Joanna.
It was especially meaningful to me today. Your talk about the finiteness of our experience here. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think that's in a way the theme of Easter.
Right.
And yet it holds such interesting promise. Anyone else?
Thank you, Bruce. It's Bonnie. It was so good to see everyone.
Thank you, Bonnie. Great to see you. Hello, River. Izumi, you look so beautiful. You look so beautiful.
I know.
Say hi.
Say hi now.
Hi, Izumi. Hi. Great to see you.
Say hi.
If you guys can see everybody. Izumi, how old is Mizumi? 3?
3.5.
3.5. Wow. And River's like 3 months, right?
River's like 5.5 months.
5.5. Wow.
He's almost 5 months.
Wow. Huh. Well, guys, I got to say, I really, really love seeing you all, and it's really beautiful. And I thank you for making the journey to Red Hook, New York. I will tell you, it's spring almost. We're getting trees. I've never seen it before, but they have red buds before they turn into green ones, I guess. And so there's this this sort of strange little redness all around the forest in us. And it's so, the color is so exquisitely beautiful and warm and rich. And Blanche and I go for these long walks, and we're surrounded by nature that knows nothing about the virus, knows nothing about the virus. It's just growing trees and growing plants and having a good old time. And in a way, there is that reality. There is that constant out there. There is a part of the world that doesn't suffer in this particular way, and it has its own version of suffering. But I have to say, plants all connect, with the root system. I believe, I'm told, they talk to one another in their roots. We're human beings, and this is our root system, and this is how we share and talk. And I'm just grateful that we're still able to maintain this in a time when, other kinds of connection are not available. So in a month, we'll be back together. Have a great month. Anybody needs to connect or call or anything, I'm really available. Just reach out and call or whatever you need to do. We're here. Okay?
I do want to say that I really like you with the halo.
Halo. Thank you. Yeah, you all know what that is. I mean, I talked about it, but it's the wheel of death and rebirth, the Tibetan wheel of death and rebirth, that we're all still this God above it. You can see the guy holding the whole picture. You have to make friends with him. He's very powerful and locks us in this endless wheel of death and rebirth until we finally embrace it and realize that we are the wheel of death and rebirth, and that there is no coming and going, there only is. And that's what we're all about. We are is. When you start to figure that out, and trust me, it's not something you figure out mentally. It's by giving up your mentality that this thing announces itself as having always been there. And that's really the gift of this practice. It's something you don't figure out. It's something that's already figured out. You just go, oh, and you realize it. That's the work. It's called realization. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Take off, and we'll see you soon.